a decaffeinated coffee. So cheers. Oh, it's a bloody good decaf. You can tell because it gives me a frothy mustache. If you guys have never tried this before, try having some Caged Muscle vanilla casein as your milk. Just a teaspoon of it, that's all you need, as your milk in your iced coffee, in your hot coffee, whatever. It is the bomb. And you can actually put it in a steamer so it steams up, or frothy like so. Otherwise, use some almond milk, whatever tickles your boat and whatever rocks you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will answer your questions in a short second. You may have seen the title to this video, and it was saying why bodybuilding competitions and Ironman events are the worst days of my life. Let me tell you why. So, one of the things that really appealed to me about bodybuilding and Ironman and downhill mountain biking or whatever it may be, I love snowboarding as well, is the individualism that's associated with it. I've never participated in team sports. I don't work well with others in regards to having people accountable to me or relying on me and me relying on others. You know, if anything should happen with myself or other team members, you know, it doesn't fall on anybody's head. So the reason why I like doing individual sports is that it's me and me alone. If I fuck up, I fuck up. If I do well, I do well. I can pat myself on the back. But more than anything, I like the individual journey. Why? Because it is very therapeutic. It can be a bit meditative, you know. So if you think about it, if you're training in a gym, it's very therapeutic for some, you know. It's a necessity. And when I'm out running, I went for nearly 8 mile trail run yesterday, and I found that very meditative, you know. It was good. It was good to clear the brain. Sometimes you have a busy week during the week, it gets cluttered up, and on those runs or workouts, I'm able to file everything and then start again and fill it up and then start again. I've only got a very small brain, so I don't have much space there, so I have to keep filing it before I put content back in so I can deliver, so I can become an outlet for you guys. So, you know, the process is very enjoyable for me. I work by numbers. I'm a very scheduled and disciplined and punctual person. So I like waking up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, whatever it is, early in the morning. If I'm swimming, it's generally 3:45 a.m. I like that routine. Even on weekends, I don't sleep in. I stick to a routine, because if I sleep in, chances are it's going to be harder for me to get back into that routine. And if I procrastinate in the morning by hitting the snooze button, what else is that going to lead to me procrastinating on during the day? We are constructed by habits, whether those are good habits or bad habits. If I start procrastinating, then that could wire bad habits into my brain. What else am I going to procrastinate on? I'd hate to think. So I start off in the morning like that. And I like to have the schedule of, you know, the timing. Timing of my supplements before my workout, the timings of my meals from the moment I wake up, the amount of fluid that I have to drink by the time I go to bed. Things like that work very, very well for me. I like structure, I like discipline. It keeps me distracted. I always say if I think too much, it makes me think too much, so I want to concentrate on things. So when I'm preparing for a bodybuilding show, or used to, or when I just recently got ready for the half Ironman and the Ironman, I love the process. I love the schedule, knowing, okay, I'm going to get up this morning, I'm going to go and hit some hill repeats, or I'm going to go for an 80-mile bike ride, or I'm going to go and swim 3,000 meters, or I'm going to hit some intervals, or I'm going to go, you know, work out in a gym. I'm going to hit legs after I've done a bike session and a run, or before, vice versa. And that process was great. And what I really liked about the process is that it was very educational for me. This is something, getting ready for an Ironman, I'd never done, especially trying to retain muscle and possibly build muscle. So I loved submerging myself within this sport and speaking to other athletes that I've got such a huge amount of respect for right now. Those guys are animals. Absolute animals. Anybody who thinks, hey, I can just show up and compete in an Ironman and do well, you know, I've never done anything like that before, They have no idea what they're up against. The people at the top are machines. Even when I hear them, their bikes sound different to mine. They are going so fast. It's unbelievable what these people are capable of at being so small. Their power to weight ratio is unbelievable. Anyway, but that's besides the point. So I love submerging myself, you know, reading every little bit of content out there. I've probably read about 30 books on the subject so far. I just ordered 2 more today, and you know, that process of education and then adapting it to yourself, because a lot of the things that were out there, it wouldn't work for me based on my weight, based on the power of wattage that I have to put out. Being 220 pounds doing these things is no easy feat if you have not got that experience, and I'm trying to accomplish something like that in only 6 months. You know, it's tough. So but the process, man, I get geeked out on it. I absolutely get geeked out, and I loved it. Now, the one thing I didn't like about bodybuilding as such was the last week, when everything can pretty much go wrong. You know, if you know, if you mess around with any variables, then you've got more variables that can go wrong. So you're talking about water retention, you're talking about spilling over with your carbohydrates, you're talking about not having enough carbohydrates in your system. The tanning, I hated the tanning, I hated the hair removal, I didn't even like the posing. I just liked the process and having some accountability of being up there and nothing more than your posing pants to say, look at me. You know, you better have done you should have done your bloody homework, otherwise you're going to look like an idiot. So I like that accountability, because that used to drive me very hard throughout the year. Times have changed, I don't need that as much, because now I have you guys and my video series and books, seminars, whatever, and obviously Caged Muscle supplements. That gives me the motivation and the accountability all I need. I better know my shit. I better be an evangelist, and you know, to the very last. And so when it actually came to competing, didn't matter if I came first, and it didn't matter if I came second. I still kind of fell into an abyss, because all of that intensity every single day of working towards something had kind of been lost now. I'd competed, it's like, okay, I got a trophy, but I didn't do it for the trophy. I did it because I enjoyed the process and having full residency of my body and seeing what I could sculpt out of myself, you know, using my brain and the knowledge and the physical abilities that I've been given, you know, whether they're, you know, holding me back or not. I loved that. So when it came to an abrupt end, man, I'd fall into some deep depression there, and which made me really question why I was competing. And it comes in latter years, I find. You know, I think back and I thought, God, I wish I'd kind of looked upon the sport a little bit differently to what I do now. And same with the Ironman, getting ready for that, you know, actually getting into the pool and getting into the open water, trying to do everything that I possibly can to narrow my legs, to make sure that my toes are kind of touching together when I'm swimming. I'm not kicking too far to create a drag. I'm making sure that I'm trying to pull with my forearm, you know, all these little things that I'm geeking out on, and it's keeping me occupied mentally throughout the entire time. I'm checking out my time to see if I'm able to beat the time that I'd done previously that I did a threshold ride. I'm trying to, you know, I'm looking at the wattage on my bike to see how much that I'm putting out on a certain incline. I'm checking, you know, when I'm going trail running, I'm absolutely loving being out in this fantastic weather, and this isn't just in this country but many other countries that I've actually seen and explored more than I ever had before. Why? Because I'm running everywhere, I'm cycling everywhere. It's been fantastic. So when I actually competed at the Ironman, it was fantastic knowing that my mum was there, my dad was there, Sunshine was there, and knowing that I actually finished the thing. And what impressed me more than anything is my discipline to pace and not to race. I was very, very tempted to go a little bit harder on the swim and on the bike, but I didn't. I stuck to the pacing strategy that I'd laid out for myself. I wanted to go in a much more negative split and a definite deficit to what I'd competed in the half Ironman. When I competed in the half Ironman, I did it in 6 hours 20. So when I did it in a full, if I was to stick to that pace, then I would have done it in 12 hours 40. I didn't. I did it in 15 hours. It's 15 hours 1 minute, because I'd strategically timed it to, and I kept looking at my watch. Luckily I'd already done that course on the half, to make sure that I was going in a slower deficit. I wanted to make sure that I had enough fuel, I was supplementing good, I was eating well, I was hydrating well, I was keeping myself cool with a lot of ice, because it's very, very hot out there, and being a bigger person, it's much harder to stay hydrated, it's much harder to stay cool, and obviously it's much harder to get in the calories, considering I'm putting out an extra 6 watts of power on as little as a 2% gradient per kilo of body.